Bruce Tuff, principal of the Tuff Law Firm. We are a full-service law firm serving the greater Woodlands area and the greater Houston area. Contact us at 281-681-0808. We're tough for you.
And now, here's the veteran voice of the legal fix, Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the Lone Star State in Montgomery County, Texas, for a brand new episode of the Legal Fix, a new age radio show presented by the Tuff Law Firm, the toughest law firm in town, with the toughest lawyers around, answering your toughest legal questions. Introducing first, hosting out of the red corner, the big deal, Bruce Colson. Tough, joined by Boy Wonder, Brandon Scott Riley, and super lawyer, G.I. Jerome, the Golden Boy, Jeremy Lee Hall.
Hey, welcome to the Legal Fix. We have a special edition. I've got Richard Franks here and Pamela Franks. Richard is a current township director. We had another show with them, and this is our makeup show. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're going to do a makeup show today and cover a lot of ground. But welcome, Richard. Good to see you. Welcome, Pam.
Nice to be here again.
And I knew you were a realtor too, and I forgot to talk about that the last show. But
we're
going to talk about your realtor show. And I asked them to send me photographs because Richard's a Vietnam veteran. He's a lieutenant, and I'm fascinated by his Army career. So he could probably spend 2 hours of the show talking about his service in Vietnam. And then I said, I got to see some of the pictures. And when I saw the pictures, man, you're like a skinny guy sitting on a tank with a,
I weigh about 145 pounds.
Yeah. Oh, man. How did you make it through the jungles?
It was easy at 145 pounds.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's harder.
I ate a lot of what we now call beanie weenies, but the Army calls beans and franks and special sauce.
And that was it.
And that was one of my big, when the sea ration packs would come in, I'd get the beanie weenies every time.
Are they good?
Yeah, they're just,
okay.
Taste just like beanie weenies.
Yeah, and a lot of protein. They keep you going.
Still eats them.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
OD cans. Of course, we were suspicious that some of the cans said, beat the Kaiser, but
Did yeah, it'd be a little dated. Anyway. Yeah, those things last forever, don't they?
We ate them anyway.
Yeah, you would have to. So Richard has one of the most fascinating careers of anybody that I know. He's a newspaper publisher, worked in the news business. He's a former city manager. Came to the Woodlands, and you were in Midwest, basically, right? That's where
Correct,
you started. Yeah. And where did you start in the newspaper business?
In the newspaper business, right after my first professional position, as you pointed out, was a city administrator.
Okay.
In Urbana, Illinois, Homely University of Illinois, I would point out.
That's right.
And I was recruited away from there by a newspaper company in Columbus, Ohio, the daily newspaper there. I started there originally as the HR director because of my experience in union negotiations in the city. I was at the city when the first public employee bargaining came into effect, so I negotiated the first contracts with police, fire, and public works employees. And because of that experience, the newspaper company shared an attorney that I had worked with in Chicago on the negotiations, and they recruited me, made me the real offer I could not refuse to come and work at the newspaper. So I started the newspaper, did that. We had 6 unions I negotiated with. It was almost a year-round program, as you might imagine. Had 2 Teamster units.
Wow.
But we did a lot of good things, got a lot of good things accomplished. And I moved from there to Vice President of Operations at the newspaper business, and then VP and Executive Vice President during that time, I was very fortunate. Great family to work for, the Wolf family, what owned it at the time. Terrific folks. And I also had the opportunity to build a brand new newspaper production plant in Columbus. I was in charge of that. Fabulous plant, fabulous, state-of-the-art everything. And during that time, I also had the opportunity to run the chairman of the management committee of a major 500-year anniversary of Columbus discovery in Columbus that we held, which was an international horticultural show. And we had countries from literally all over the world that appeared there. Home Garden TV did their Saturday broadcast from there on TV every Saturday. We had, I don't remember exactly how many countries, 20-some, I think, in all displayed. We had a pavilion that we created, not unlike the Mitchell Pavilion, and we had all the names, the artists of the 80s and 90s that you and I would know.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact,
big hair bands. Yeah.
And in fact, we had one of Bob Hope's last shows.
Oh, man.
He broadcast from Ameriflora 92 was called the event.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Ran from April to October in 1992.
Dang. I went to the pavilion and saw Frank Sinatra at the Woodlands, Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion. He was the opening act. Frank Sinatra, back in the day. Okay, so when did you meet the love of your life? Tell me about that.
I met her in Urbana when I was a state administrator there.
Okay.
She came to work there originally, I think, as an assistant, and then went into personnel.
As your assistant?
She was one of my administrative assistants.
Oh, and you're a human resources director, and isn't that something like you can't do that now?
At the time, there wasn't an issue with that.
Yeah.
Well, and this was my second city job.
Oh, was it?
Out. So I had worked for the city of Highland Park, Illinois, as an assistant city manager there.
Okay.
And then moved to Urbana and Champaign-Urbana, and then.
We were fortunate in that she had the opportunity to either go to work for City of Champaign or City of Urbana, and she chose us.
Wow. Why is that?
My dad said, which one offered it to you first?
Oh, really?
And I said Urbana, so that's why I
Urbana.
ended up there.
Okay.
They both were within like 2 or 3 hours of each other.
And you were assistant city manager.
In Highland Park.
In Highland Park.
Yeah.
Okay. So what attracted you to this guy right here?
I think just his perspective on, he's sort of a futurist, so he sees things that need to be done. He did in the city and, made it happen, but some things that most of us wouldn't even think about. So we were one of the first Tree City USA in the country.
Yeah.
There's just different things that we did. We had great HR programs for recruiting our department heads, and like the police chief and fire chief and public works director. So different, I think, just the future way of changing things and making it more updated and more professional.
You said futurist. That's pretty cool. Did you say futurist? That he's got a futurist way of thinking about things?
Yeah, I think, didn't you win an award for some sort of innovative thinking?
Innovative thinking, okay.
Innovator of the Year.
Magazine award.
That's very cool. Very, very cool. So when did you guys decide to get married? On the job, after the job? Was that during that time?
I had gone on to Columbus at the time.
Okay.
And she was
in the
still
paper
working
business.
at the city, yeah.
Okay.
And in fact, I think was the administrator for a while, right?
Yeah, so I was the administrator.
Really?
Yeah, so I was
Wow.
really good about knowing most of the departments. I had a very good relationship with police, fire, because I had done negotiations with him, but, with those departments, so I had a very good. The one I could not really get my head around was engineering. And so,
So the Public Works Department, engineering, the city engineering, Public
yeah,
Works.
and streets and
Yeah.
the snow plows and
Yeah.
everything, taking care of all that. But
Yeah.
when the city engineer would come in and explain something to me, I just didn't get it. So I would contact him. But we had a very close group of friends, so we would all go. There was probably 8 of us that would go over to Columbus and spend a weekend, and then came back. So there were a lot of single people in that group. So that's how, and then.
And I became, we all became very good,
Yeah.
good friends with the police chief and the fire chief. I consider them personal friends. They visited me in Columbus. She'd tag along, and after a year or so, we decided time to get married. And so she gave up the city and moved to the newspaper business.
I love that. I love that. You have kids?
We have, yes, we do. I'll
Yeah.
let Pamela talk about that. She
All right,
talks
tell us
better
about the
than I do.
kids.
So we have 4 kids. We have 3 daughters. Megan, who lives here in Houston, and she has 2 little boys. Molly, who is a major in the Army, and she is at Fort Carson. Madeline, our 3rd daughter, is in Connecticut, and she has a little boy and a little girl. And Molly has 3 kids, being a major in the Army. 2 little girls and a little boy, and then our son Matthew is here single.
All right. Wow.
He's
What
an
a-
attorney in Houston.
All right. Good. I love attorneys. That's cool. You got to always have an attorney in the family. That's a rule.
We have
we
found
got
that.
We have found,
We have found that out.
We've had people, the 2 oldest daughters, both graduated. One graduated, Molly, the major, now graduated from Tufts and decided she wanted to go into medicine, but she didn't want to do the 8 years for a doctor. So she went to get her master's degree. And during that time, she joined the Army, and the Army then paid for her nurse's training.
Oh, yeah.
But the neat thing was she was also commissioned on the USS Constitution in Boston Harbor.
Nice.
It's really cool.
Wow, that is cool.
And our oldest daughter then, she decided the same thing. She graduated Illinois,
Right?
went back and got her master's in nursing, and she then, basically her jobs have been here the whole time. She worked first at Methodist and now at MD Anderson.
Okay.
And she was in the reserves.
And then we had one,
So
our
you have
youngest
two,
daughter.
two in the Army?
Yeah, so
2,
Megan was in the
okay.
reserves
She was a
for 8
captain.
years. Yeah, for 8
Only
years.
a captain. What a slacker. And the other one's a major, right? And
unfortunately,
you're only a lieutenant.
they-
What the hell?
But I told him I still have time in service.
You did. Yeah.
So
That's
it's
cool.
worked out well. And Matt graduated Illinois. So we had 2 Illinois. We had
Yeah.
the youngest daughter went to Indiana. They all had great time. All the schools they wanted to go to, we were fortunate they got to go to
Yeah.
school where they wanted to, so we didn't have any of those kind of issues.
Right.
And
But
then
yeah, they've all done very well. We're very proud of them all. And
Molly, the military sent her to Baylor to get her master's in hospital and business administration. So they spent a year, and she got a double master's there, and now they're sending her to get her PhD as part of her Army.
different army than I was in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, she may end up at Beaumont Medical Center in Texas, which
Very
is in El
possible.
Paso, which
Yeah.
is that's where one of the medical colonels. You know, you end up. I remember I deposed a colonel at Beaumont Medical, Colonel Xerxes. Whoa, that was an experience. Don't ever do that again. Well, happy Father's Day,
Thank
Dad.
you. Thank you.
You're
And
gonna have
same
a
to you.
you're gonna have a great Father's Day. I got 4 kids too, so this will be very special.
it'll
And you
be
got
fun.
two of them are here, so that's good.
Two of them
right?
are here, yeah.
Yeah, and where's Molly stationed? You probably told
She's
me.
at Fort Carson. She's a
Fort
deputy
Carson. Okay.
commander of all the medical facilities now.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Wow, must
She's-
be real
she's
proud
done
of
well.
all,
It was
all your
interesting.
kids.
When she first started talking about the Army and she discovered the medical corps, she told people, I finally found a way that Dad would let me join the Army. I said, no, that's no combat unit. No,
Yeah.
you're not going to do any of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Weren't you hesitant about your kids being in the Army? You serving in Vietnam? You were in combat. You were a
Yeah.
combat soldier in Vietnam. You know, well, what a time to be in
Well,
service.
as I told her, there are certainly roles, and I still believe this, quite frankly, that are appropriate, and being in the medical field certainly was for her. And she just missed what she thought was an opportunity to go with the Special Forces group
Yeah.
to Iraq or something, and thank
Yeah.
God she missed it. And I said, Molly, no, you do not want to go to those kind of things. You do not belong in that. And she has, in fact, herself come to the position that and this is her, and she tends to be a bit of a feminist, obviously, in what she does.
right.
She does not believe that women should be in combat positions.
Well, depending on the combat position, she doesn't
She
think they
thinks
all
women
should
should
be
be
in
in
the tank.
combat, does she? She doesn't think. Oh,
No.
she doesn't think.
No.
Okay. All right. Good. Good. I respect that. Man, I honor her service. Honor your service. Yeah, and that's in all our servicemen and women.
We tried to have an interesting thing, just a little on the side. Our son, who is an attorney downtown, had a client who was of Vietnamese descent.
Mm-hmm.
And they got their award, whatever it was, and he was just going to say, well, I'll just mail you your check or whatever. And the guy
Yeah.
said, no, I want to come in and see you.
Yeah.
Thought that was a bit odd. He said the guy was kind of difficult to work with at times. And he said the guy came in and he said, well, I just read in your biography to my son that your father was a Vietnam veteran. And on behalf of my father and I, we wanted to come in and tell you to thank him for us.
Wow.
So yeah, every once in a while you get a really good pat on the back. So
Yeah. What was it like returning from Vietnam when you came back?
well, you know, it was that we had to back then you had to travel in Class A's, which was interesting. So we turned in our fatigues right,
Yeah.
at Long Binh Post, and we had to wear khakis or Class A's back. Mm-hmm. And we
Class
did.
A is a dress
You're right,
uniform.
and
right.
then of course we landed in San Francisco and went to out processing and all that, and they give you your last paycheck and a salute, and you're still in uniform, your travel orders. I went to the airport and got on. It was a United Airlines flight, and it was still when they were flying the 747s. And when I got on, they said upstairs. And so they took me upstairs, and that's back when they still had the bar and all that.
Oh, were treated well.
Yeah, treated
That's
very
good.
well by the airline crew.
That's outstanding.
But again, it was one of those times that you got out of uniform pretty quickly because you didn't want to cause a lot of issues. I was an ROTC cadet on campus at that time.
Whoa.
And on Thursdays we had to drill, and you had to wear your uniform all day long.
Yeah.
And that became troublesome at times. Let's put it that way.
Well, I remember. Yeah, I remember those times. It's sad. It's a sad commentary on our country and what was going on. Men and women serving in the military, serving their country, honoring their duty to their country, and then being disrespected for it. And it just, to me, that really bothered me. It really bothered me. And I honor every serviceman and woman, especially Vietnam.
I had some friends that you know, when I got my orders to go to Vietnam, which were a surprise, I was having quite a nice time at Fort Hood at the time. I was executive officer of a tank company.
In Texas, yeah.
It was great. And they said, well, your class is, they were calling people up by class for Vietnam. We went to armor school at Fort Knox, and 12 of us ended up at Fort Hood. The 1st and 2nd Armored Division were both there at the time. They were calling people up by class by Vietnam, and they were already in the next year. So we all thought, hey, we got it made. Nothing. Go out and get a different apartment. Let's use some new furniture. Well, I walk in, and I was executive officer, the only second lieutenant executive officer of a tank company, which was great because my commanding officer was actually a helicopter pilot who was learning armor, and he had just married a former Miss Texas. So he wasn't in his full 8 hours a day. So I basically got to run the company. I mean, it was great, you know. I walk in there one morning, the first sergeant says, "Congratulations, Lieutenant Franks, you're going to Vietnam." And I said, "Oh, Top, don't even joke about that stuff." He said, "No, you call Major McBride, I'll never forget. Major McBride, Armor Branch to Pentagon, 1,300 hours. You're kidding. Nope. So I go into my office, I sit down, I'm going, well, this is certainly a change, you know. My phone rings. Hey, I just got orders for Vietnam. Rings again. Hey, I just got 10 of the 12 of us got orders. We thought, what the hell is going on? Major McBride, I called him. Lieutenant Franks, yes, sir, you got your orders coming down. 1,300, you're going to get 30 days to clear post. Your orders become, yes, sir, yes, sir. Report to Travis Air Force Base, California. Blue, blue, blue. We thought, what is going on? Turned out it was for the Cambodian invasion.
Oh, man.
So it was an interesting time. And I had people said, couldn't you get out of going to Vietnam? And I said, when I signed up for the Advanced Corps ROTC and I was commissioned, I made that decision. Did I volunteer to go to Vietnam? No, I want to make that clear.
Yeah.
But did I know that was a possibility when I did all that? Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
the war was going on during that time, man. You had a clear picture where you were
as I said, I want to make clear to folks, I didn't volunteer.
Right.
But except I guess I did in terms of
you
that.
volunteered to serve, but
When I took that oth as a commissioned officer, you know, you do what you do.
You do what you're ordered to do, right? Yeah.
And I had a lot of friends that didn't, or they chose all sorts of other branches when you got your branch choice when you were in Advanced Corps. And they were choosing air defense, artillery, and supply, and well, they got their orders back infantry, and I picked armor to begin with, and I got armor, so I never regretted that.
During my first year in college, the draft was instituted, so they did away with the S2 deferment. So we had a draft lottery, and on my floor, the guys that got drafted, these are draft numbers between 1 and probably 50 or so. They were, I mean, we all got drafted, but they were drafted and they were going to Vietnam. They all enlisted. They enlisted in the reserves, the Navy, Coast Guard. I mean, it was a mad rush. I mean, the day they got their number, then they went down and enlisted. And that's where everybody was going. And that was across the board. No one just said, hey, oh yeah, okay, I'll take that and I'll see you in Vietnam. No way, man. It was
and for some folks,
scary time.
Some folks that made that decision, as well as those folks that decided they wanted to go to Canada at the time, it was just as well for everyone that they did, because some of the folks were going to put everybody else at risk.
No, that would be a
performance.
Huge,
but one thing that I was amazing was the number of college-educated draftees and how good they were in the Army, and how they said, "Hey, I'm here. I'm doing my 2 years. I'll do the best job I can do." I mean, I don't know how, quite frankly, sometimes the military runs without those folks anymore.
Yeah,
because they held some of the best positions. They,
in our soldiers in World War II. You have been elected to the Woodlands Township, and I supported you when I first met you. I mean, you're the kind of guy we need. You have city manager experience, negotiated with the unions, police, fire. You had some great ideas. You were just telling me about 2 or 3 of them that have all been implemented, and just spend a little bit of time talking about your recent service on the township and these new programs.
Okay, well, one of the things that I really got involved, as you know, Bruce, during the incorporation issue, because having had the experience as a city administrator, I had a great appreciation for what a special situation we have here. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know a lot of folks that were in the city management position that would die to have this kind of an opportunity to work with. So that really was what really got me involved in things, and talking with people and meeting with people. And the other thing that I noted during that time, and then later after I decided to become a candidate, talking to people, was I really felt we need to have a little more input from the population than perhaps we've had. One of the issues that we have is because we don't run by precinct. Yeah. We run for everybody elects us. Right. It's very difficult sometimes to sort out all the issues. Mm-hmm. Our villages are very different in many ways, demographically, age-wise. I mean, the years of development. Grogan's Mill is completely different than Creekside Park.
50 years.
Yeah,
compared to 20.
We just
10.
We needed more, in my opinion, more input from what was going on at the village level. Again, since we don't run by a precinct or a district or an area. Yeah. So we did, I wanted to set up what I call the Village President's Council, and have them have direct liaison with the township board, and have them really involved in both things that are going on at the township level, and to find out what's going on at their level and get input from their citizens.
That's happening. You got that done.
Happened. We had our first meeting, second meeting. First meeting was organizational, but it went very, very well.
And you're the liaison for the township board with the President's Council for the villages. You also just recently told me about this, which I think is the most fabulous idea, because we don't do enough telling about the good things we do in the township, and it's with community impact, right? You got
correct. We're gonna. I propose, and I believe it's going to be acted on here in the next couple of weeks, that we take out a full-page ad in Community Impact every month to discuss township issues, events.
Everybody reads it.
Things that
everybody sees
everybody
it.
looks at the paper, and what the other thing I want to do is try to educate in a positive sense what I call our passive citizenry. Mm-hmm. We all know we have about our 10% of us that are activists. You and I are activists. Yeah. We know people that are activists.
Right.
We tend to look and really look for the information and find the information. We have a whole group of people that really don't. It's not that they don't care. It's just that they don't have time, or they're not interested in going online, or they're not interested. But everybody looks at this community impact for the new restaurant, for what the showtime is, for what the traffic thing. And I want them to we want to try to get a permanent spot So when they're stumbling through there to look for the new restaurant,
Right.
they're going to see the township page
Township
and say,
and all this-
"Hey, I didn't know this was going on.
Yeah.
I'm interested in that.
The
I'd
government.
like to get involved in that."
It's our local government making
I want to
good things
encourage,
happen.
and I want to encourage and inform the talent we have in this community to use them.
Yes, that's
I want
excellent.
them to know what's going on,
Yeah.
and I want to use them. I want to use the talent we have in this community for free.
I love it. I love it. So those are tremendous ideas. Richard Franks, Pamela Franks, thanks for being on the show. You guys are awesome. I want to wish you a happy Father's
Thank
Day.
you. Same
Thank
here.
you for your service. Let's get together for a scotch. We need to continue this. Yeah, we got to do that. That's a good. I had Scotch Fridays with Colson, so you and I are going to have Scotch
Absolutely.
Thursdays or something. Yeah, yeah. We'll go ahead and do it. And Richard Franks, you're doing great things in the Woodlands Township. What a community servant you are, and what a patriot.
Thanks
and,
for your kind words.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
well, thank you, sir. We sure appreciate you, and thank you, Pam. And anybody has realtor business, they go see Pamela Franks. You bet.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you all for tuning in to the Legal Fix. If you have any legal questions, feel free to call us at the Tough Law Firm, 281-681-0808. You can reach any one of us, and I'll be available to talk to you about any of your legal needs at the Tough Law Firm. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Legal Fix. You can see us on Facebook. You can see us on Instagram, Spotify, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.